Hello and welcome to episode 21 of the Gangrene Against the World podcast. I'm Allan Simon. The New York Jets are headed to foggy London town as they're set to take on the now tied for first place Denver Broncos. The Jets are the last winless team in the NFL after some other bad teams were able to find ways to work towards a victory. And the Jets' recent history in London has not been great. They had a terrible game against the Falcons a few years ago. And then, of course, last year was what started the death spiral for the Jets season. They lose to the Vikings in London in front of Woody Johnson's friends. And Woody Johnson gets embarrassed. He fires Robert Saleh, and we know how badly things went from there. So the good news will be that the game will be over early in the morning or in early afternoon for Jets fans, so we can watch a 9:30 kickoff on the East Coast and then just, get going with our day and not have to worry about between 1 and 4:30 being miserable watching this team. It's a tough matchup for the Jets. The Broncos have a really good pass rush. They're getting healthier in a lot of ways. They did lose a lineman that will be a key factor in this game, I'm sure. But overall, until the Jets prove that they can put together another full performance of football and play 4 quarters, I don't see how the Jets beat a team that are well coached and that are playing for a lot. They're playing for a chance to have first place all to themselves in a really crowded AFC West. On the good news for the Jets side, it does look like Jermaine Johnson is going to work his way back. He has been practicing this week, and as long as he has no hiccups, he will be able to play and suit up. And what that will hopefully mean is a lot less Michael Clemens. And I know it's easy to pick on Michael Clemens, but he once again puts on just terrible tape. And he has 2 plays against the Cowboys in that awful loss to Dallas on Sunday where the play is happening right in front of him. And he is, for some reason, either looking down the line or pinching on the lineman while the ball is going in the opposite direction. He is not a functioning starting lineman in this league. And the fact that he still has a role on this team is a frustration, but Jermaine Johnson coming back should alleviate some of that. It looks like Allen Lazard is not going to play. I don't believe he even made the trip as he is dealing with some personal issues, and I haven't seen reports of exactly what's going on, but that means the Jets are going to suit up 4 receivers in this game, and receivers have not played particularly well outside of Garrett Wilson, so it's going to be a lot more of Mason Taylor and Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson this week, and a couple of other disturbing numbers that have come from this offense. And I've heard a lot of the Justin Fields stands. They're fighting me on Twitter about it's not Justin Fields' fault. He's been playing really well. Look at his numbers. The Jets have been down by 14 points or more in every game since week 1 before they score their first touchdown. So what that means is everything Justin Fields is doing is in garbage time. And that's true for the game that Tyrod Taylor played as well, although they make a comeback in that game and still lose because the defense is terrible. But Justin Fields has not played well. Justin Fields still holds on to the ball longer than anyone in football. He had a little back and forth with the media over that, but your eyes tell you that he's not reading defenses well. He can make plays when he needs to because he's super athletic, and I'm not saying he's the biggest problem with this team, but save me the, hey, Justin Fields is doing his part, because it's not until games are out of hand that he's putting up points. He put almost half of his yardage up against Dallas in the last 12 minutes of that game. That's where they scored their 2 touchdowns. So if they have any hopes against the Broncos, he needs to play better and needs to look more like that week 1 Justin Fields. I'm even now more convinced that his performance in week 1 was because he was playing a defense that he saw every day in practice and he knew what he was looking at. So instead, we're going to have another week against a good defense, another week in which the Denver Broncos are looking to embarrass the Jets. Sean Payton a couple of years ago, after saying some not so nice things about Nathaniel Hackett, he turned out to be correct, and the Jets lose that game in an ugly game at MetLife Stadium. It's also been a matchup in which they've had major injuries. AVT hurt himself a few years ago against the Broncos. Breece Hall went down for the season against the Broncos. Just bad things seem to happen when the Jets play the Denver Broncos. It will be a nice test for these young tackles on the Jets, Membu and Fashanu, as they take on 2 of the better outside pass rushers in football right now. Nick Bonito got his big contract, and he's looked really good, and it looked like he was worth every dollar. So they're going to have another game where they get to improve, and any future of this Jets team and whatever parts are remaining after this disaster of a season comes to an end. And listen to us talking about the end of the season. It's only week 6. It's going to be around this offensive line. They've put together a good offensive line. The offensive line has not been an issue. And if you're telling me the next 10 years, Fashanu and Mbemba are your tackles, then the Jets line is in good shape. Other things you're going to hear as we, no matter what happens on Sunday is going to be about who do the Jets trade. I think it becomes very likely that Breece Hall gets traded very soon, and definitely before the trade deadline, obviously. There's no reason to have a running back on this team, on a losing team, who's about to walk away in free agency and not get anything back for him. So that's the prudent thing to do, and I expect them to make that move at some point. And the last thing that I need to see from the Jets this week and from Aaron Glenn to make sure that this isn't a full-blown one-and-done year for the new head coach is they have to show up. They need to play well. They need to just put together 4 quarters of football in which it's not an embarrassment. I'm not even saying that the Jets need to win, but it needs to look different. And we went from a screaming Aaron Glenn after the game a few weeks ago that led to nothing after they lose to Miami. Miami then loses to the Panthers, by the way, and the Panthers come to MetLife Stadium next week. Then they follow that up with a huge no-show against Dallas. And now we have to hear Aaron Glenn talk about how it takes time. It's going to take time, fellas, or whatever his quote was. How come it doesn't take time in Jacksonville? Jacksonville's got a new head coach, and they're winning football games. They're finding ways to win. Outside of the Titans, who are a disaster, although they found a way to win a game, there's not football that looks as bad as what the Jets are putting out there. And I said this on Simon Says Sports, but I think it's worth repeating. I golfed this weekend with a scratch golfer, and it's the same thing where the sport I play is completely different than the sport a scratch golfer plays when we're both golfing together. It's the same thing when you watch the Jets play football. The Jets are playing a different sport than the rest of the league. And the Giants aren't too far behind. New York football's never been worse. But the Jets are not a functioning team. And if this is another week of a complete no-show, the water's only going to get warmer for Aaron Glenn. And I like Aaron Glenn, and I hate this has turned into an Aaron Glenn bashing season so far. But there's a difference between it being a bad football team with a weak roster and being an embarrassing football team. He said he wanted this team to be something that fans can be proud of. Well, that has not been the case. So a lot to get to on this episode. We're going to get to a famous moment between the Jets and Broncos coming up next. And then I have from Mile High Sports joining me, Lindsey Bebout. Excited to talk to her, get the perspective from the Broncos side of things, and we'll have a good time talking about one team that's playing for first place and one team that's trying to see if they can even play football at all. So here's a clip in Jets Broncos history, and I'll be back with Lindsey Bebout in a second.
He was trying to get the ball out to Rod Bernstein on the outside, and Mo Lewis just played it perfectly. He had the back coming out of the backfield one-on-one, and Elway, for whatever reason, did not see him. Now, I don't believe that the sun was in Elway's eyes at all. He throws the ball, and Mo Lewis was right there to pick it off, and really no one to stop him.
Welcome back to the Gangrene Against the World podcast. I'm Allan Simon. Very happy to be joined by a contributor from Mile High Sports, Lindsey Bebout. Lindsey, thank you so much for joining this morning.
No, thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here.
Of course. Well, the Broncos are getting the Jets after an interesting week where they totally no-show against the Cowboys, while Denver has a great comeback against Philly and gives Philly their first loss. So I guess just as we head into week 6, as we head into a London game, what are the vibes around the Broncos right now? Are fans excited? What's the feeling around the team currently?
So it's really funny because after the Chargers game, the vibes were just awful. It was
Mhm.
before the season, we were so high on so many different rankings. People were calling us a Super Bowl contender, and it was almost like we had been underrated for so long, and then now we were being accused of being overrated. So then when you start the season 1 and 2, it's
Uh-huh.
like, oh, crap, maybe we are overrated. And so the vibes were down, and then, we get it back to 2-2. That was a pretty easy game. No biggie. But to beat the Eagles away and the way we did, the vibes are now. It's like, if you're not
Right
listening to
back
this,
up.
or I'm sorry, if you're not watching it, you're not seeing my hands, but it's literally been up, down, and now we're back. We're like
There
higher
you
than the
go.
screen shows.
Well, and that seems to be what the feeling is with Bo Nix too, right? As you go along for the ride of a young quarterback, but that win against the Eagles was a very Sean Payton win too, right? You go for two at the end of it to take the lead, and it's as I watch the Jets struggle with another rookie head coach, and Sean Payton and the Jets kind of had a tiff after Nathaniel Hackett left, and Sean Payton kind of made fun of Nathaniel Hackett,
Yeah.
and then they come into MetLife and beat the Jets in a terrible game. Watching a true professional head coach who does have his roots in New York from his time with the Giants just makes it more frustrating as a Jets fan to see how well things have gone. And it seems like Sean Payne has taken to that group in Denver very quickly now in his third year. I'm sure fans have been happy with him. What's the feeling around Sean Payton and just the professionalism he brings to that football organization?
So the 2-point conversion was super healing because we didn't go for two last year against the Bengals and then lost in overtime. So the
Okay.
fact that we went for the 2-point conversion, we ended up needing to, but in the moment didn't necessarily need to. And if we don't make that, we are now down and going to have to score again. First stop them and then have to score again.
Yep.
In terms of the professionalism, something that's been really cool that I've noticed in recent weeks. So obviously we have Nathaniel Hackett, which is just a vibes, for lack of a better word, hire. We have field days during the off season or at training camp, like
Mhm.
very vibes, but no real production.
Yeah.
Then you get Sean Payton in, and fun is not the word that I would use to describe training camp. Like you could see it's a silly comparison, but the social media even became virtually nothing. They're
Yeah.
not really interacting with the players. Oh, there's my cat that you had hoped to see. But like I said, not a whole lot of fun. And it's fine if you start winning, but then we have that Miami game, right, where we
Mhm.
lose. What was it, like 70-10?
Yeah.
10. I've blocked that memory out of my mind. So now we're not fun and we're not winning, and there's just these
Mhm.
questions of like, eek, was Sean Payton overrated? Was it a Drew Brees thing? And then we started winning, and then we made it to the playoffs, and it's like, oh no, we're
This guy
adults
knows what
now.
he's
We're
doing. Yeah.
adults. Yeah. Like we're an adult team. And even this beginning of the season, though, I'll admit the two losses we had were strictly because of essentially penalties. You expect the team to be more disciplined. So there were some concerns there, but I really think this Eagles game, and the NFL is a very fickle league, but I really think the Eagles game, it was kind of like, okay, that was a thing of the past. That's right. Sean Payton is who he is. Let's trust the process. We're good.
Yeah, no, and e- Steve Young always says like the first 4 weeks, 5 weeks of the NFL season is really preseason, right? It takes a long time for these teams to gel, and even under an old school guy like Sean Payton, training camps aren't like they were. There's no two-a-days, all that kind of stuff. So especially with a young quarterback and a team trying to gel, you take a win like you have against Philly, and it can really be a launching pad. And it's a nice soft landing space to have to face the Jets after such a tough game against Philly. The Bo Nix experience, for a little bit, he was the lowest rated quarterback by Pro Football Focus, but when it's all said and done, the most important QB stat is winning. And he had a really nice fourth quarter after a rough 3 quarters to start the game. What are the overall feelings about Bo Nix right now? And is there hope that he's the guy, or is it still a work in progress?
So it's kind of become a running joke, especially on Broncos Country Twitter, about PFF's dislike of Bo Nix. I think even after beating the Eagles, I think this week they had him at number 32. So it's kind of just become a running joke. I was getting Tim Tebow vibes in that Eagles game, right? The whole suck for 3 quarters and then come in the fourth quarter and pull it out. Except with Tim Tebow, I was relying on God to
Sure.
create a miracle for me. Whereas with Bo Nix, I know what he's capable of.
Yeah.
So that's where the difference is. Look, there's obviously some stuff that needs to be worked on. If I had $1 for every time this season there was oh my gosh, how cool would it have been if that ball hadn't been overthrown? There's quite a few those would have been like 70-yard touchdowns if they're just not for the overthrow. So to me, the mechanics are there. Like with Tim Tebow, the mechanics were not there, right? The heart was there, but the mechanics weren't there. And you can't really, to a degree, fix some of those things. Whereas the issues I see with Bo Nix are totally fixable. And I've seen way more good than I have the negatives I've just mentioned. So as far as I'm concerned, and as far as everyone I've talked to, and that, other than maybe PFF, he's the franchise quarterback.
Yeah, that's great. And we saw early on, he's not a guy who lacks confidence, right? He's in there right
away. Do you
away.
Remember last year when he was like, I fear nothing with those big eyes?
Yeah, and then I think he had 2 straight games where he just kind of drops the ball on the ground and tries to make ridiculous plays. But that's a young quarterback trying to figure it out in the league, and he looks like a good young quarterback. Usually you can tell pretty quickly, and, the Jets have a nice way of ruining young quarterbacks until they leave and go elsewhere. But Bo Nix is going to face a defense that should be getting Jermaine Johnson back, but it's a defense that has been really the worst in football, and they showed that again against Dallas. They showed against Miami. It is just not a deep team. They're out of multiple linebackers now. Overall, how's the offense looked? I know it's been a little spacey, and it took a while for him to click against Philly, but when you think about this offense against the Jets defense, what do you think about going into Sunday?
Yeah, it's funny. To be honest with you, I haven't watched a lot of Jets games.
Nor
so I was
should
trying
you.
to do my research. I was trying to because what's confusing to me every week when I hear they've lost is I have Justin Fields in fantasy. So I check my scores and I've scored 30 points for my quarterback, but then I look and they've lost. And it's
Well, it's all garbage time. And what I was saying leading into this segment, Justin Fields on paper, his numbers look fine. And there's Justin Fields stands on Twitter who I'm always fighting with of it's not him, but the Jets haven't scored a touchdown until they were down 14 points in every game since week 1. So Justin Fields is great in the fourth quarter when it's over.
Right. So that was my looking. And he hasn't thrown in, correct me if I'm wrong, he also has not thrown an interception this season.
No, he's a couple fumbles, yeah.
Fumbles, but no interceptions. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, did Breece Hall have 2 fumbles that he lost last week?
So, no, he fumbled 1 last week, and then Braylon Allen had a fumble before he got hurt against Miami. But, so they've turnovers all over the place. They've had kick return turnovers, too. It's been a mess.
Right. And so there have been a couple games you guys have lost where it's been lopsided, but otherwise, you've lost, I think, 3 one-score games. And so you could point to those fumbles or those mistakes literally being the difference. So it's interesting because, like I said, with the Broncos, our 2 losses came in the form of undisciplined. A freaking leverage penalty. Give me a break. That'll haunt me for a very long time. At least the Chargers, it was like they score, they
you don't give them another
made plays
shot
to win. Sorry, that's a different podcast.
No, totally.
But to answer your question, so with the Broncos defense the way it is, given that the Jets are losing games because of how many mistakes they're making, seems like a dream for this defense. The biggest bright spot that has been for the Broncos this season, I don't think it's a surprise, but I think a lot of people who weren't paying as close attention to the Broncos as someone like I was, has been J.K. Dobbins. I had friends texting me before the season, hey, I draft R.J. Harvey, right? And I'm like, and I told them, I have the text to prove it. I said, I don't think so. I think it's going to be J.K. Dobbins. Right now, he has the 5th most rushing yards in the NFL. I believe he scored a touchdown in every single game so far, except for 1. So not only do we have this awesome defense, we also have a run game for the first time Philip Lindsey was the last 1,000-yard rusher in 19.
Yeah.
J.K. Dobbins had his first 100-yard rushing game for any Broncos player. I believe it was a 38-game streak.
Wow.
So that is my long-winded way of saying where the Jets have their lowest points, we are excelling. And so the combination of the two, it's a match made in heaven for the Broncos.
Yeah, and I think the only real issue could be is there a letdown after a huge game against Philly, but I think going to London almost takes that away because now this game is a thing, right? It's different than just, hey, we're going to the East Coast to play the Jets. It's, hey, we're doing this overseas game. Let's get locked in. And like I said, the Jets have terrible history of playing in London as well. So on the not great news, Ben Powers is going to be out until December. So the offensive line has been fantastic for the Broncos so far this year. How does that shake things up? And is that a concern? It usually is when you lose one of your top linemen.
Yeah, I mean, it's not great, for sure. But we do have depth at the position. Given how the line is as a whole, I'm not concerned. I was interesting, though. I was this morning trying to look up to see if there had been any news on who was going to be the next man up, and there's not, as of us recording this podcast, they haven't announced who's going to be the starter.
It's not a bad thing that if you don't have if your depth is in a way where, hey, there's multiple guys who could step in and be the starter for Powers, that's a good sign. And the Jets defensive line, they're going to get Jermaine Johnson back, which helps against the run. But, Michael Clemens is probably the most hated man in Jets country right now. And Will McDonald, although he's a really athletic and exciting pass rusher, he's one of the worst run stoppers in the league. So, J.K. Dobbins is set up for what could be a good day. So on the flip side, the Broncos have two great pass rushers and a really strong defense. Nick Bonito gets paid, and he's shown that he's worth every dollar. And to me, the most exciting matchup and one of the few bright spots for the Jets has been they have two very nice tackles, Olufashinu, who was drafted the first round 2 years ago, and then last year was Membu. Membu is graded out as one of the best linemen, period, not just rookie linemen. What has this defense been like? What has that experience been like with these pass rushers, and what do you expect from them come Sunday?
So it's weird. The Broncos have been phenomenal on defense, but we really have not had very many turnovers. I mean, Hufanga last week, literally the ball was in his hands and he had the pick six right in front of him and he couldn't complete it. But we haven't had a lot of turnovers. You know what? I'm gonna make a hot take. I know we'll do more at the end, but Justin Fields is gonna throw his first interception against the Broncos.
There you go.
That
it's
just
bound
came
to happen. Yeah, and he should be facing a lot of pressure, which means that he's trying to make plays downfield. And the Jets are also only going to dress 4 receivers too, so options won't be there. But, the Jets are the only team in football that have not created a turnover the entire season. It's the longest streak in the history of the NFL, 5 games. And my hot take is they're not going to get one either on Sunday. So I don't think the Jets get one at all. But so the defense has been holding strong even without turning the ball over.
Yeah.
And that makes sense. And it's tough to see how they could find a way. Go ahead.
Against the Eagles, first time they've been in the red zone where they did not score a touchdown. So we were the first team to stop them from scoring a touchdown in the red zone. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
And
so we're great there. Yeah.
Yeah, and the Jets are the worst in the red zone in football. So every stat you throw out, it's really not fair to compare. It's unfair for the Jets that they're playing the Broncos right after what I think is the most complete team in football, the Eagles. It's going to be a problem. And the other thing with Justin Fields too is no one holds the ball longer than Justin Fields. It's like 3.6 seconds per pass attempt. Yeah, I think it's going to be a rough day, and it's going to be one where unless we see something different from the defense, it's going to be a tough trek for the Jets. Looking forward in this division for the Broncos, obviously, until the Chiefs are displaced at the top at the end of a season, I always think they're going to be able to figure it out. But it looks like an older team, and they seem weaker right now. The Chargers, another well-coached organization that look really good. What do you think? How do the Broncos looking in terms of finding a way at the top of the division? And how are you feeling about that division race right now?
So I would be lying if I said I wasn't a little scared after the Chargers went 3-0. But I shouldn't have been, because I have been a Broncos fan long enough to know it does not matter how good the Chargers are. The Chargers will find a way to charger. They are now 3-2. Marion Hampton is on the IR. I don't even care. It does not matter what analytics tells me. It does not matter what stats tells me. The Chargers will always find a way to charger. So that's my take on them. I think when we play them again, we win because we'll be at home. We should have beat. I was literally 6 rows up in the end zone where the Chargers scored that last field goal.
That's
It
brutal.
was so painful it was awful. I was like, do I start a fight? Do I like start running around naked to like cause a distraction? What do I got to do to stop this field goal?
Whatever it takes.
Literally, I would have done anything. But then when it comes to the Chiefs, yeah, I just think, we throw the word dynasty around it. Sure. I mean, there are few things in life I hate more than the Kansas City Chiefs. So again, I'm coming with a little bit of biasm. But we throw the word dynasty around, especially after Tom Brady retires, right? Like you're always looking for the next big thing. But it's not that easy. And yes, the Chiefs have been phenomenal with Patrick Mahomes. I'm not taking anything away from them. But they are older, and you can only get away with what they've managed to get away with for so long. And especially, I don't want to sound super biased, but how many calls have gone in their favors? How many lucky somehow defensive play at the end of the game that seems so unlikely happens, and they end up just squeaking by. Like that's not going to last forever. And I think that they're finally seeing what happens when all of those things aren't in their favor.
Yeah.
I despise Travis Kelce. I have despised him since he had that stupid show where he was dating a girl from all 50. I was like, this guy is a loser. He's a Gronk loser wannabe. And I have felt that way for 10 years now.
He's had one of the great rebrands of all time.
Oh my, again, I could do an entire podcast about that topic. But, he cost their first 2 losses were, you could blame him and Harrison Butker missed field goals, and then Travis Kelce injuring his own players, and then Travis Kelce literally handing the ball to the Eagles defense in the end zone.
And then complaining like it's a penalty. Yeah.
Right. And like I said, these crazy plays that used to just somehow go in their favor, they can't rely on that anymore. And unfortunately, they're just not winning. I mean, Trevor Lawrence was on the ground rolling like we used to learn in elementary school how you'd handle a fire, drop, and roll. And he still managed to score.
Yeah, no, it's the Chiefs. If you think about the Patriots dynasty, there was that long valley, right? They win all those Super Bowls immediately, and then there's a valley, and it's hard to rebuild that team because usually when a quarterback steps in and is successful, it's because the team around him is very good. But eventually, over time, when you pay a quarterback a lot of money, it chips away. But we'll save this clip come February when they're playing the Eagles again in the Super Bowl.
I know,
because that seems to be how this usually goes. But I'm with you. They do seem older and seem ready for a step down.
And I would just say, so many of the Chiefs' wins were like if Malcolm Butler caught an interception that should have never been thrown in the first place, like 25 times.
Yeah, if the Bills just kick a kickoff in the field of play instead of through the end zone with 13 seconds left. No, the list is on and on, but that's usually how it goes. I mean, for the Patriots, right? They had some miracles in their run. They have the snow game against Oakland where they never would win if it's not for the tuck rule, and on and on and on we go. But let's get to some predictions. Overall, what do you think you're going to see on Sunday? Final score? What do you see coming down the pike?
Okay, so for all the great things I have said about the Broncos defense so far, and it breaks my heart to talk about this, I don't even want to say the words. We still have Alex Singleton. And if you've watched Alex Singleton, if you watched the Broncos game at all, that 46 yards Saquon Barkley touchdown, Alex Singleton was on him. So I don't want to sit here and say it's going to be 30-0 because the Jets do have Justin Fields. The Jets do have Breece Hall. They do have where the Broncos have some I will give you your credit, right? I kept saying the Jets' weaknesses are the Broncos' positives. And in reverse, there's a couple of things where I could say the same. So I do think Justin Fields will have a couple really long rushes. I think Breece Hall will have a couple really long rushes. I think there will be a couple long throws that do get made. But overall, I'm thinking something like 27-10.
That sounds about right. Yeah, that's about where I'm feeling too. And the Jets, it's funny if you look at all the graphs people post on Twitter the week after the slate of games, the Jets are like third in explosive plays. The Jets have like a win rate that's through the chart on run plays, but it's football's not played on a calculator, right? It's played on the field, and the Broncos are the exact opposite type of team of the Jets. The Broncos are tough, the Broncos are well coached, and I don't see Sean Payton allowing that team to become unprepared and have a letdown. So yeah, I'm thinking about the same thing. Before we wrap up, Lindsey, just where can people follow you? Anything you want to promote as we head into week 6?
So you can follow me on Twitter at Lindsey Bebout. It looks like Bebout, but it is Bebo. And then every Wednesday, I write an article for Mile High Sports discussing that week's PFF grades. Very interesting because, I mean, just we discussed, how they grade Bo Nix. Pat Surtain has had a couple very interesting grades. I mean, the game against Jamar Chase, Pat Surtain had one of the lowest defensive grades, even though I believe against him he had about 8 yards caught or something absurd.
It's not perfect science.
It's a very right. So it's a fun. Yeah. It's really interesting to write about because there's PFF, as you know, isn't just a one-track mind. There's so many different factors, and so I give my thoughts on those.
That's awesome. Well, and also if you follow Lindsey on Twitter, you will see that she was once retweeted by Mina Kimes. So
I was.
Honestly, that means that you're worth the follow right off the bat. So, well, Lindsey,
thank you.
I look forward to some early morning football on Sunday for me so it can be over with and I can get on with my day. But maybe we'll see a good football game on Sunday. But I really appreciate you joining us today. I hope it was a good conversation for you.
Well, yes, this is super fun. You're so easy to talk to.
Well, I appreciate that. We're going to have a little clip of Jets Broncos history before I go through the 5 keys of the game. And Lindsey, thank you once again.
Thank you.
The previous mark from Thomas Jones of 210.
He may get more endorsements this way.
Oh, wait. Oh, you want to go there? The redirect by Powell, and Bilal Powell has a chance to go. Darnold slings it downfield. Juggle and a grab. Touchdown, Terrell Pryor. A brilliant catch as he snares it.
Of Yedem, as good as you're going to get right there.
Welcome back to Gangrene Against the World. I want to thank Lindsey Bebout once again for joining. It was a good conversation, and I think we could have always expanded on the Travis Kelce conversation, but maybe another day when the season is really dead for the Jets, we can go at length about Travis Kelce's turnaround in his brand. And how the Chiefs, seem susceptible this year. And the Broncos are one of those teams trying to take the step and take them off the top of the AFC West. The Chargers are definitely going to be there as well. So it should be an exciting division race out there in the West. And for this game on Sunday, I said it with Lindsey, but I want to say it again. I think if this game was just at MetLife Stadium, a letdown game could definitely be in play for the Broncos. You go through your normal habits, you celebrate a big comeback win against what could be the best team in football. Then you have to be a West Coast team flying east. I could see there being a potential for a letdown. But because this game is in London, and it's just a thing. It's more than just the game. Not that it means anymore, but you're out of your routine, so you're really just focused on football, and I think it'll keep them sharp. I cannot imagine Sean Payton allowing this team to be unprepared. We know about his history of bad talking the Jets. I think he would be very embarrassed if they lost to this winless Jets team. And for the Jets, just have some pride. You got to show up. You need to put together just a more fulfilling performance, right? They can't be proud of what they've put on tape over the last 4 weeks in particular. 13 of the last 16 quarters of football have been complete no-shows. And you're going to be the only game on in the morning, and another performance like that, it's just going to get worse and worse for Aaron Glenn. He's already run out of things to say, and a win would just clean the slate, but I think it's going to be a tough route for the Jets. So let's get to the 5 keys to the game in this Denver Bronco matchup against the New York Jets. Number 5, turnovers. Jermaine Johnson is going to be back, and that should help against the run and also keep Will McDonald more fresh on the pass rush. Bo Nix can make some interesting decisions and is certainly someone who's turned the ball over in his career. Every other team in the league has at least 2 turnovers, and the Jets have none. This has to be the game where it happens, but until you see it, I refuse to believe it. And that is also the ticket to an upset. The best way to upset a team is to create turnovers early, flip the script on a good team. And if the Jets have any hope of winning, they have to find a way to win the turnover battle. The Jets also can't turn it over themselves. 7 fumbles is just inexcusable in only 5 games. To lose 7 fumbles, the way they've lost it, 2 inside the 10-yard line. And then we know the defense never responds after those plays too. 2 weeks in a row, a fumble within the 10-yard line, and then the defense lets up 90-plus yard drives for touchdowns. Needs to be a better performance. It needs to be a cleaner performance. Lindsey pointed out, and it's true, that Justin Fields does not have an interception this season, but he's also not taking a lot of risks, and I think this is a game where he needs to throw downfield more, but the Jets need to have a game where they turn the ball over. It's as simple as that. It is unfathomable that a team, even a bad team, can start 0-5 with 0 turnovers, and it's never happened before in league history. That's how hard it is to be that bad. Number 4, throw the ball early. The Broncos have a great pass rush, but they're a little bit leaky on the back end. You can throw the ball against them. They're also the 6th best rush defense in football, so Breece Hall probably has a better chance to make explosive plays in the passing game than he does the running game, and they need to let Fields open up, not just when it's garbage time. We'll say the stat again. It's not until they're down 14 points or more that the Jets have scored their first touchdown of the game in the last 4 games. That means that you're already being blown out before you put a scoring run together. Now, 2 fumbles on the 10-yard line will hurt that. They've had good early drives that then lead to nothing, but they need to find a way to throw the ball downfield. And the number 3 key to the game is included in that in Mason Taylor. Mason Taylor has put together a couple nice weeks. He seems to be truly the tight end 1 on this team. And when they get downfield, he needs to be a red zone threat as well. If you're going to be a good tight end in this league for a long time, you have to be able to use your larger body and use your big frame to make space in the end zone and catch some touchdown passes. So we'll see how Mason Taylor looks in what will be his 6th game of his career. Number 2, I'm excited for the challenge for Membou and Fashanu. Membou has been up for every challenge so far. He's been one of the best linemen in football. Fashanu, I think, gets hurt by a lot of the blitzing that he's seen, and you know the Broncos are going to blitz again. There's no way a good team and a team that is well coached doesn't look at the tape against the Jets and say, hey, we just got to throw a bunch of unique blitzes at them because Fields holds on to the ball way too long. He does not know where to get the ball when he's under pressure, and it leads to bad decisions and a lot of 2nd and longs and 3rd and longs. So we'll see how Membou and Fashanu do when they face more pressure and they face 2 premier pass rushers in this game. And number 1, it's really simple. Can you not be an embarrassment? Have some pride. Play a complete game. We know how Woody Johnson gets when he loses in front of his friends. And if this isn't another embarrassment, there is no reason to think that Aaron Glenn will be safe at the end of this year. You know, Aaron Glenn is mentioning in press conferences other coaches he's talking to, like Tony Dungy, and he's run out of things to say to prove that he is the right guy for this job. He needs to show it. And a win early in the day on a Sunday, you get to fly back home. You then play the Panthers and the Bengals. It could ease the tension for this team, but I think they're in for another rough one, which is fine. It's okay to lose to a better team, but you need to show up. So that's the number 1 thing. Just don't be an embarrassment. For 1 week, don't be an embarrassment. Overall, my prediction, Lindsey said 27-10, I believe, and I think it's to be along the same lines. I'm thinking 31-17 Broncos. And then the good news is the game will be over around 12:30 East Coast time, and we can go about our day and watch real teams play football. So this has been episode 21 of the Gangrene Against the World podcast. I want to thank Lindsey Bebout once again, and we'll talk after the Jets game Sunday. Thank you so much for listening.